So now we'll be tackling the part 2 of teaching poetry and dramatic poetry. So first, let's have our learning targets. Please kindly read, everyone. So now we have teaching poetry and dramatic poetry. So teaching poetry and dramatic poetry is one of the most expressive and imaginative forms of literature. And teaching poetry involves not just helping students understand poems, but also encouraging them to feel, interpret, create using their own voices. And dramatic poetry in particular brings performance, emotion into focus, and making poetry come alive. So now, first we have our fun poetry. Fun poetry refers to poems that are light-hearted, humorous, or whimsical. These poems often use rhyme, rhythm, wordplay, and exaggeration to entertain and amuse. They're ideal for young learners or reluctant readers because they show that poetry doesn't always have to be serious, right? Exactly. Poetry, it's not just focusing on the dramatic or emotions, more on deep emotions, like sad, but also we have a fun poetry because not always have to be serious, but we have to have fun. And also this is the target here is for the young, and also for the young learners, because young learners is very very good to this, because some of us is likes fun stories like that. So these are the other examples of the fun poetry: limericks, nonsense poems, and funny rhymes and poems by Shel Silverstein or Jack Pilotsky. So now let's talk about first the limerick.
So now, let's talk about limerick. A limerick is a type of humorous poem with a specific rhyming scheme and meter. It usually features a clever punchline or unexpected twist at the end. For example, there once was a fellow named Pete whose dancing was quite incomplete. He'd jump and he'd spin, and he'd tumble within, but his moves were always offbeat. Next is nonsense rhymes. Nonsense rhymes, on the other hand, are playful poems that often use made-up words, absurd scenarios, and whimsical language. They are meant to be fun and silly rather than serious or meaningful. Edward Lear is a famous poet known for his nonsense rhymes. The example of this is The Owl and the Pussycat Went to the Sea. In a beautiful pea-green boat, they took some honey and plenty of money, wrapped up in a fine pound note.
Now let's proceed to funny rhymes. So when we say funny rhymes, it is a short, playful poems that use rhyming words to make learning fun. They often tell silly little stories, use humor, and are easy for children to remember. So by using funny rhymes, learners can enjoy language, improve their vocabulary, and practice rhyming in a fun and engaging way. So an example for funny rhymes is that a frog sat down upon a log, then slipped and splashed into the bog. So the words that rhymes there is the log and the bog. So that makes the sentence funny rhymes. Funny rhymes also help learners practice pronunciation, rhythm, and word patterns. They also encourage creativity as children can make their own silly rhymes.
Now let's proceed to Shel Silverstein and Jack Pilotsky. Can you all please read? Okay, thank you. It means that Shel Silverstein and Jack Pilotsky writes poems that are fun, creative, and easy for children to enjoy. Their humor and playful use of words make poetry less serious and more exciting. Help kids appreciate and understand poems better. Now, let's proceed to Shel Silverstein. As a poet, songwriter, and cartoonist who made poems fun, quirky, and meaningful. His famous works are Where the Sidewalks Ends, A Light in the Attic, and The Giving Tree. Highlight how his poems are playful, silly, and often have surprising endings. Now, let's proceed to style and themes. Number one is whimsical and quirky. His poems are light-hearted and playful. Imagination and nonsense. Uses fantasy and silly ideas like talking objects, unusual situation. Life lesson. Life lesson, hidden morals in a simple words. And last one is drawings, accompanied by funny and simple cartoons.
Let's talk about Jack Prelutsky. Is known as the first U.S. children poet laureate. His book like Behold the Bold, Umbrella Pat, and The New Kid on the Block mix imagination with funny and invented wordplay. Jack Prelutsky is known of his creation. His poems are fun, creative, and full of imagination. He often invents silly creatures and funny situations, using rhyme and rhythm to entertain young readers while encouraging laughter and curiosity.
So there are teaching tips. Use Silverstein and Prelutsky poems too. First, teach rhyme and rhythm. Second, encourage creative thinking. Third, introduce poetic devices such as alliteration, imagery, and personification. And last one is prompt students to write their own fun or nonsense poems.
What is shape of poem? A shape of poem, also called a concrete poem, is a poem written in the shape of its subject. The words form a picture that represent what the poem is about. This type of poetry combines visual arts and written language, making it both fun and creative. A shape of poem, also called a concrete poem, is a type of poetry where the words are arranged in the shape of the subject. For example, a poem about a tree may be shaped like a tree. This style makes poetry both visual and creative, helping readers to connect more with the subject. It's a great way to make poetry exciting, especially for children.
Why use shape poems in class? First, to boost creativity and poetic expression. Second, strengthens understanding of imagery and visual language. Third, combines literature and visual arts. And lastly, encourage students to think about form and meaning together.
Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about how to understand and appreciate poetry. A lot of people think poetry is hard or confusing, but it's really just a different way of communicating. Think of it like a puzzle or a code. The poet has carefully chosen every word, and our job as readers is to figure out why. The 6 key skills for comprehending poetry. Number 1, understanding vocabulary and language. First, we need to look at the words themselves. Are there any unfamiliar words? Take a moment to look them up. Poets also love using figurative language. This is when they use words in non-literal way to create a certain image or feeling. For example, a simile is a comparison using like or as, like the moon was like a silver coin. A metaphor is a direct comparison, like the moon was a silver coin. Paying attention to these devices help us understand what the poet is trying to show us, not just tell us. Number 2, unifying the theme or message. This is the big question. What is the poem really about? Is it telling a story? Is it expressing a strong emotions? Is it trying to teach a lesson? The theme is the central idea or message that the poet wants to convey. 3. Recognizing tone and mood. Tone is the author's attitudes towards the subject. Think of it like the poet's voice, and are they being playful, sad, serious, or sarcastic? The next one is the mood. Is the feeling that the poem creates in the readers. Does it make you feel happy, sad, or anxious? Tone is about the author, while the mood is about the reader. The fourth one, observing poetic devices. Poets use special tools to add rhythm and music to their work. Listen for things like rhyme, words that sound similar, rhythm, the beat of the poem, alliteration, the repetition of the same sound at the beginning of the words, like the silence and snow, and the imagery, words that creates pictures in your mind. These devices aren't just for decoration, they help create meaning and make the poem more memorable. Fifth, considering structures and form. We can also learn a lot by looking at the poem's layout. Is it a pre-verse or a poem with no rhyme or rhythm, or is it more traditional rhyme poem? How do the line break stanzas and affect how you read it and how you think it means? The last one, making personal connections. Finally, this is the really important one. We should always ask ourselves, how does the poem relate to my own experiences or feelings? Connecting with a poem on a personal level is what truly brings it to life. Putting it all together, a sample poem by Robert Frost, Stopping by Woods on a Snowy Evening. So here are some few questions we can ask ourselves. What is the speaker doing in the woods? What mood do the snow silence create? What might the line "and miles to go before I sleep" symbolize? By asking these questions, we can move beyond the reader or the reading the words and start truly comprehend the deeper layers to the poem. So when you read a poem, don't be afraid to take your time, read it aloud, and remember these 6 skills to help you uncover the rich meaning that the poet has hidden within the words.
Tips for teaching poetry comprehension. First, read the poem aloud more than once. Poetry is meant to be heard. Second, annotate, highlight keywords, circle unfamiliar terms, and jot down questions. Third, discuss in groups. Share interpretation and different viewpoints. And lastly, use visual aids such as charts, drawings, or even acting out parts of the poem.